Good morning. Well, I need to talk because something happened 1 week from today. That was last Friday. And it's something that's been bothering me, and I was actually obsessing myself, just thinking about it constantly of what happened, where I just have to confess. I really feel that being raised as one of Jehovah's Witnesses and now being gone for 10 years, there's a lot of little small things where I don't really need to put on Facebook or do any video, but when they're big things, it eats me alive. And what happened last week, it's really bad, and I really need to confess. I really feel that when I confess to everyone, I feel better and my obsession dies down. Now, if I'm not going to do the video, then I'll keep obsessing about it. I'll talk to Jeremy about it, and he then will get sick and tired of hearing it, and I'll splatter it all over Facebook, and I won't stop. So I think by doing this video and let people know what happened, which is, of course, is a Jehovah situation, that I think I'll feel better. So I'm going to tell the story. And of course, it is about a field trip that I went to last Friday. Now today is March the 7th, year 2014. So it was last Friday is when this happened. I and two other school bus drivers had a field trip to go to ASU. That's the Arizona State University in Tempe, Arizona. I, of course, live in Phoenix. So we loaded the students. We had me as one of the drivers, Pete, who is a Jehovah's Witness that goes to my old congregation, and then the third driver, which I'm not going to use the real name, I'm going to be calling her Sally. And of course, she's never been a Jehovah's Witness. So we went on the field trip. We dropped the kids off. We parked our buses right outside of the Gamage Auditorium, as Pete, of course, asked if we were hungry and if you would like to go eat somewhere. So we all three agreed and said, yeah, no problem. We were on the clock. We were on a field trip. So, of course, I told them I know places. Been on this field trip 8 million times. I told them there is a Burger King where we could walk to. I also told them that we have a grand opening of Chick-fil-A, which, of course, the two drivers said, ooh, Chick-fil-A, I'll go there. So I said, okay, that's great. So we went over there. All three of us ordered our food, got our food, then we sat down. Then I myself asked Pete, who again goes to my old congregation, how my cousin Michael was doing. Now Michael, of course, is my cousin who still goes to my old congregation. Just asking how he's doing. I knew that he got married about 2 years ago to a young 18-year-old kid. He's now 35. I had every right to do that. No matter if I'm an ex-Jehovah's Witness or not, he's still my relative. So Pete very politely looked at me and said, well, I guess he's all right. Oh, we don't talk very often. Now, of course, I didn't say anything about it to his face, but in my mind, I'm thinking, you don't speak to each other much anymore? I'm thinking, Michael is an elder, and from the last time I heard that Pete is a ministerial servant, and don't elders and ministerial servants have to talk at the meetings and do all their elder things? And so then Sally, she then looked at me and said, oh, did you have a fallout between you and your relative? I then looked at Sally and said, well, not really. You know what? I'm sure you know that I used to be a Jehovah's Witness. I lived that life for like 27 years. And when I used to be a Jehovah's Witness and when I was pioneering and following the cult, I was very close to all my relatives. Very close to my little brother, Benjamin, close to Michael. I was even close to my Aunt Nan, God rest her soul. But she was always disabled. with back problems. And of course, when I used to be a Jehovah's Witness, we used to go shopping a lot. We used to go to Walmart, go to the pet store, and just hang out. And so Sally's looking at me like I'm not understanding. And so I told her that, unfortunately, when I left the religion, which is coming up 10 years now, we're now year 2014, and I left in year 2004, that my whole relationship with all my relatives fell apart into a million pieces. So Sally, they looked confused. She's like, I'm not understanding. I understand that you left your religion and you found God in a different direction. You found a religion now and everything's honky-dory, but I don't understand. Why would that make a difference with your relatives? I then told her very clearly, which is a fact, I told her that since 1981, when I was only 4 years old, coming by the Watchtower and Bible and Tract Society, that they made a rule then that if anyone was disfellowshipped or anyone who disassociated themselves, which is like resigning, or if anyone voluntarily left the religion, that all Jehovah's Witnesses must completely shun that person, including their own children, their own aunts, uncles, cousins, grandparents, if anyone, no matter who it is, that you must shun them. So Sally's looking like, that's not right. I don't think that you have to be shunned or be disowned just because you leave a religion. Victor, you said that you found God a couple years ago, and I'm not understanding. Then Pete, of course, had to interrupt and looked at both of us and said, Victor, you made that choice. I then looked at him and said, about what? About leaving your religion or that I'm a homosexual? Pete then looked at me and said, and of course Sally, and she goes, you made that choice to live that lifestyle. So of course I knew what he was talking about me being an openly gay man and a Christian. And then I, of course, looked at him along with Sally, and I'm like, really? So you're trying to tell me again that you think that I made that choice to be gay? Well, then let me ask you this. Did you make that choice to live a heterosexual life? Or those who might made that choice being bisexual or transsexual? He then looked at me and he goes, the Bible very clearly states that homosexuality is detestable, disgusting, and you cannot inherit Jehovah's kingdom if you live that lifestyle. I, of course, looked at him and said, okay, Pete, I'm not going to go into this discussion again. You know what? I didn't make that choice. He then looked at me and says, yes, you did. I then stopped and said, okay, Sally. Now I'm looking at Sally. I go, you know what? Let me tell you something about the Jehovah's Witness religion, how they can't keep their policies straight. When I was in the early 20s, I'm now in the early 30s. In the early 20s, when I was struggling with homosexuality, my mom very clearly stated that you made that choice when you left that religion. That if you pray to Jehovah long enough, that one day, with Jehovah's organization's help, that you will wake up one day and live a straight life. You'll get married. You'll marry a really good sister in the congregation who might be a pioneer. You might even become a ministerial servant, even become an elder one day. So Sally's looking at me, and Pete's looking just like, oh, doom-dee-doo-dee-doo-dee-doo. I go, but now, let me tell you, in the late 20s into the early 30s, that whole concept changed. Now my mom tells me, years later, that I know witnesses, of course brothers in the congregations, that I strongly feel that they are born gay. Now, back then, a couple years ago, I was like, what? Was there now a new light, a new change again? She goes, yes, there was a new light from Jehovah's organization, and they do believe that people can be born gay. You just got to be celibate. So I'm looking like, so are you trying to say that if I stayed celibate, never having sex, following all your cult religious beliefs, that I could be gay still, just be celibate? And in the end, my mom pretty much said, yes, you just can't have sex, you can't watch your R-rated movies, you can't wear a goatee, you can't accept a blood transfusion, you gotta limit your association, all their crazy beliefs. Can't have your ears pierced, can't go to the bars, you can't have worldly friends, same old crap. So I was like, I'm confused. So I told Pete that. Of course, Pete kept going back to the same story over and over. You made that choice to live that lifestyle. He never used the word gay in his sentences. He just said, you lived that lifestyle. I go, oh my God. So then I'm kind of started ranting and raving about the whole Jehovah's Witnesses. Just things that the crazy things that they believe in. Like, of course, calling themselves as a cult, which is scientific proof. I'm not trying to be rude about them just to piss them off. It is a scientific proof that they follow a cult. He, of course, started getting very agitated, almost kind of like shaking his head, rolling his eyes. He then had to ask me a question. And this is what he tells me. Okay, Victor, can I ask you a question? I said, okay. Now, I know that I've heard you say in the past that you go to church now, you followed a religion, you did this, you did that. I said, yes, I found a great church, and definitely not judgmental. We can come in flip-flops and t-shirts if you want to. You can come in with your ears pierced. You can come in as you're gay, straight, bisexual. There's no dress code. Then he looks at me, and he looks at Sally, and he says, so, I want to know, does your elder or your pastor or your reverend or whatever you want to call him or her, do they accept homosexuals? I then rolled my eyes, looked at Sally, and said, yes, Pete, they accept homosexuals, bisexuals, transsexuals, and unfortunately heterosexuals. He then looked at Sally, looked at me, and he's like, that's not right. And Sally's kind of looking at him like, why is that not right, Pete? You know, people who might be gay or straight or bisexual, they still should believe or be able to believe in God or in Jesus. So I don't understand what your problem is, Pete. And Pete says, well, if the Bible clearly states, and he kept using the word clearly states that homosexual is wrong and is a detestable to Jehovah, then why would they be accepted to go to the Kingdom Hall or going to the church? I'm now looking at him like, oh my God, you're not listening, Pete. You need to realize this. There is a very difference with your Jehovah's Witness beliefs, which was my former life, and what I believe in now. So Pete's looking at me like, okay, what are you trying to say? I go, okay, Pete. And now Sally's listening, what I'm saying. I'm like, Pete, in your Jehovah's Witness religion, actually, I started with my beliefs. I go, in my beliefs, we only follow one thing, and that is the Bible. We don't follow no Watchtower magazines, no Awake magazines, and even if we did go door to door, which we don't, but if we did, you would never, ever see us going door to door and offering the Watchtower or the Awake magazines. And then he's looking like, well, we just trying to follow what the Bible says. I go, I understand that, Pete. So why can't your religion just follow the Bible? Durr. So he's still looking that eyebrow look. I go, so now, Sally, I'm now looking at Sally and talking to her. I go, Sally, you might know this, but then you might not know this. In the Jehovah's Witness religion, they don't follow just the Bible. Actually, they rarely ever use the Bible. Everything has to go by what their organization says. So Sally's looking and saying, okay, what is the organization? I told her, the organization, what Jehovah's Witnesses call it, is, and I quote, the Watchtower and the Bible and Tract Society. Then Sally's looking like, okay, what is that? I go, the Watchtower and Bible and Tract Society, which is in upstate New York. Actually, it's in Brooklyn, New York, which they're transferring the next couple of years to upstate New York, Walk-Hill. They are a group of men. Now, Sally's looking like, okay, I'm not understanding. And he goes, you need to realize, Sally, in the Jehovah's Witnesses, they have leaders. And these Watchtower and Bible and Tract Society, also known as the governing body, they are the rulers. Their organization, which is all men, always has to come first before any God or any Jesus. So if you, and I'm telling Sally this, so if you make a mistake, no matter if it's a small mistake or a big mistake, you can't just go to Jesus. You can't just go to God for your forgiveness. You have to go to their man-made leaders, the Watchtower and Bible and Tract Society, or what they actually do is go to their elders. Of course, elders are men too. And you tell them, you have to confess what you did. And then the men, which are elders, decide if you're forgiven or not. And of course, if you're not forgiven, they disfellowship you, they kick you out, and then everyone completely shuns you. She then says, so they shun you now? I go, of course so. I left the religion 10 years ago. For 8 years, I wasn't disfellowshipped, I wasn't disassociated. I just completely, voluntarily left the religion. But even though I wasn't kicked out, because the lifestyle that I lived, and I do still now, I was no longer welcomed. And then, of course, 8 years later, with all the emotional abuse I had to deal with, and knowing that now, as my little brother Benjamin, who has 2 more children, who still to this day, I never met. I'm not allowed to, let alone visit them, but even meeting them. And then Pete kept saying, yeah, because the lifestyle that you live. I go, you know what? Your elders shouldn't have to tell us what we can and cannot do. I then told Sally and said, you know what? You need to realize, I can quote the Watchtower if you wanted me to, and I have it in my Kindle. In 1974, which is 3 years before I was born, it very clearly stated in the Watchtower magazine that related to relatives who might have been disfellowshipped, that is not God, elders' decision if they want to associate with their disfellowshipped or disassociated relative, that they have every right to associate with them. Of course, now, since 1981, that changed that. See, it's all about new light. And of course, Sally is looking like new light. I thought Jesus is what we call new light. He is the way. He is the truth. I then, before Pete said anything, and he wanted to say something, I said, no, in the Jehovah's Witnesses world, their elders, their ministerial servants, their Watchtower Bible and Tract Society, and their governing body, they are their light. And it clearly states it in their Bible. See, that's why they can't just follow the King James Bible or the New International Bible. They have to form their own Bible, the New Real Translation, what they just updated and changed their Bible. We call that revised their Bible just last year 2013. And they have to translate the way how they think it's right. See, I told Sally this. Before 1960, the Jehovah's Witnesses followed the King James Bible. Finally, they changed it to their form of the Bible. Of course, I quoted to Pete and to Sally what Revelation 22:18 and 19 says, which states that you shall not add, change, or subtract from the scroll of life, which is the Bible, or you could be plagued by the 10 Sea Scrolls that clearly states that exact phrase in the Bible. Of course, when it comes from the Jehovah's organization, it doesn't matter how much they go against what the Bible says. I also even quoted what John 16:3